You could spend years building a relationship with an avoidant person. You could show up consistently, you could give them your time, your energy, your emotional availability, but here's what happens. The moment you need them to reciprocate, the moment you ask for the same investment back, they disappear. And you're left wondering what you did wrong. But you didn't do anything wrong. You were just never their priority. Because avoidants aren't actually loyal to people. They're loyal to something else entirely. And when you understand what that one thing is, everything changes. You stop blaming yourself. You stop trying harder. You stop making excuses for their behavior. Because you finally see the pattern clearly. And it's not about you at all. This is something most people get completely wrong about avoidant attachment. They think avoidants don't care about connection, but that's not true. Avoidants care deeply. They're just loyal to the wrong things. And once you know what those things are, you can navigate these relationships with your eyes wide open. So if you're dealing with an avoidant right now, or you suspect you might be one yourself, stick around because this changes everything. Drop a comment and type the word freedom if you've felt abandoned by someone who claimed to care about you. Tell me in the comments which pattern you recognize the most. Share your story below so others know they're not alone. Let me know what resonates with you most down below. Now let's dive in. What is an avoidant person actually loyal to? This is the key question that nobody asks. People assume that avoidants are just commitment phobes or emotionally unavailable, but that's a surface level understanding. The truth is much more interesting. Avoidants are deeply, intensely loyal, just not to people. They're loyal to their independence. That's the thing. Their independence is like a religion to them. It's sacred. It's the one thing they will never compromise on. Think about what independence means to an avoidant. It's not just about doing what they want when they want. It's deeper than that. It's about never being trapped. It's about never feeling like someone else has control over their emotional state or their choices. For an avoidant person, the moment they feel like you're becoming important to them, something happens in their brain. An alarm goes off. A warning system activates. Because in their mind, importance equals vulnerability. And vulnerability equals loss of control. So what do? They pull back. They create distance. Sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly. And they tell themselves it's the right thing to do. They tell themselves that they're protecting themselves, but what they're really doing is protecting their independence. That's their one loyalty. That's the thing that matters more than anything else. More than the relationship, more than your feelings, more than the promise they made. Let me give you some examples so you can see this pattern clearly in your own life. Maybe you're dating an avoidant. Things are great at first. You're getting to know each other. There's excitement, there's chemistry. But then at some point, usually after a few months, something shifts. They become less available. They take longer to text back. They make plans less often. You start wondering if you did something wrong. But here's what really happened. You became predictable to them. And predictability means you're starting to matter. And if you matter, they might lose their freedom. So they pull back. And when you get upset about it, they tell you that you're being too needy, that you're being too attached, that you're asking for too much. But what they're really saying is you're threatening my independence. You're getting too close to being important to me, and I can't allow that. Or maybe this happens in a friendship. You have a friend who's like this. You're there for them constantly. When they're going through something difficult, you show up, you listen, you support them. And they seem grateful in the moment, but then the next time you need them, they're nowhere to be found. They don't return your calls, they don't show up when they said they would, and when you confront them about it, they get defensive. They tell you they have their own life, that they can't be responsible for your emotional needs. But what's really happening is their independence is being threatened. You've become important to them, and now they need to reassert their freedom by proving that they don't actually need you. This is the core pattern with avoidance, and understanding it is everything. Because once you see it, You can't unsee it. You realize that their behavior has nothing to do with your worth. It has nothing to do with how lovable you are. It has everything to do with their internal conflict between wanting connection and needing independence. Here's what makes avoidant attachment so destructive in relationships. It's not that avoidants are bad people. Most avoidants are actually wonderful people. They're thoughtful, they're intelligent, they're often very successful, but there's this part of them that's terrified of losing control. And that fear is bigger than their capacity to love someone consistently. So you end up in this exhausting cycle. You get close, they pull away. You try harder, they pull away more. You give them space, they come back for a bit, and then the cycle starts again. And the worst part is that you're constantly second-guessing yourself. You're wondering if you're doing the right thing. Should you chase them? Should you give them more space? Should you just accept that this is how they are? But here's the thing. None of those strategies work because the real issue isn't about space or communication or effort. The real issue is that they're loyal to something that will never be you. Now, I want to be clear about something. There are degrees of avoidant attachment. Some people are mildly avoidant. They might need more independence than average, but they can still show up for the people they love. They can still make compromises. They can still prioritize a relationship sometimes. But then there are the ones who are deeply avoidant. And with those people, independence will always come first. The question you have to ask yourself is, can you live with that? Can you be in a relationship with someone who will always choose themselves first? Because that's what you're signing up for if you're with an avoidant. You're accepting that when push comes to shove, they will prioritize their freedom over your relationship. They will prioritize their comfort over your feelings. They will prioritize their independence over your togetherness. Some people can handle that. Maybe they're avoidant too, and they understand the dynamic. Maybe they have their own independence that matters to them just as much. Maybe they're not expecting their partner to be emotionally available, and that's fine with them. But most people can't handle it. Most people need more. Most people need to feel like they matter. Most people need to feel like they're important enough to their partner that their partner will make changes and compromises for them. And that's where the real pain comes in, because you're trying to love someone who's incapable of being loved in the way that you need to be loved. You're trying to create intimacy with someone who is fundamentally terrified of intimacy. You're trying to build something lasting with someone who is always looking for the exit. So what do you actually do about this? How do you navigate an avoidant relationship? First, you have to stop taking it personally. This is crucial. You have to understand that their pulling away has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not because you're too needy. It's not because you're lacking in some way. It's because they have this internal programming that says, when someone gets close, I need to leave. And that programming has nothing to do with you. It was installed long before they met you. Second, you have to set clear boundaries, because avoidance will test your boundaries. They'll see how much they can pull away and still have you available. So you need to be very clear about what you need. You need to say, I need consistent communication. I need to know where I stand with you. I need to feel like I matter to you. And if you can't provide those things, I need to walk away. And you have to mean it, because avoidance can smell desperation. If they know that you'll accept whatever crumbs of affection they throw your way, they will keep throwing crumbs. Third, you have to ask yourself if this is sustainable. Can you actually be with someone like this for the long term? Or are you just hoping that they'll change? Because here's the hard truth. Avoidance rarely change. They might get better at managing their avoidance. They might develop more awareness of their patterns, but the core loyalty to their independence doesn't usually change. They might work through some of their stuff in therapy, and that's great. But at the end of the day, they're still going to prioritize their freedom in ways that feel painful to you. So you have to be honest with yourself. Are you willing to accept this person as they are? Are you willing to live with the inconsistency? Are you willing to be in a relationship where you can't rely on them to show up in the ways you need them to? If the answer is yes, then maybe this can work. But you need to know what you're signing up for. You need to go in with your eyes wide open. Now, let me tell you what happens on the other side of accepting this. Once you accept that an avoidant person is never going to be loyal to you the way you want, something interesting happens. You start to let go. You stop fighting for their attention. You stop trying to convince them that you're worth their time. You stop making excuses for their behavior. And in that letting go, something shifts. You get your power back. You realize that you don't need them to validate your worth. You realize that their inability to show up for you says absolutely nothing about your value as a human being. You realize that you deserve to be with someone who is excited to be with you, someone who chooses you consistently, someone who is willing to make you a priority. And here's the beautiful part. The moment you genuinely accept that you deserve better, that's usually when one of two things happens. Either the avoidant person suddenly feels your withdrawal and starts to panic because they realize they might actually lose you, and that can sometimes trigger them to start working on their stuff. Or you actually do walk away and you find yourself with someone who is capable of meeting you where you are. But notice that in both scenarios, you had to let go first. You had to stop being available. You had to stop trying. You had to accept that their independence is more important to them than you are. And from that place of acceptance, things can actually shift. I want to talk about something else that's really important here. A lot of people who are in relationships with avoidance tend to be anxiously attached. There's usually a dynamic where one person needs reassurance and consistency, and the other person is running away from that very thing. And this creates a really painful pattern. The anxious person is usually the one who's doing all the work. They're trying to figure out what the